Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the top 30 running back rankings for week 4. You ready?
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, we're going to talk about the top 30 running back rankings for week 4. Now, we're doing this live, so if we make mistakes, you'll understand because it's live. You also, what we're going to do is we're going to show you some stats and graphs to go along with the rankings so it can help you with your lineups and you can make your own decisions. And we know that's what it's all about, right? You're going to stick with your guys. You're going to stick with your lineup. You're only checking us out because you want to see some information, some graphs that might help determine your lineups. All right, let's get started. All right, number 1, you got Christian McCaffrey home versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Christian McCaffrey, you can't do no wrong. He keeps performing no matter what's going on, no matter what team. He's doing well. In week 3, he had 18 attempts for 85 rushing yards, 1 TD, 5 catches, 34 yards. He was the 5th ranked wide receiver in week 3. He's going to do well again this week. He's just a dual threat. At number 2, you got Tony Pollard home versus the New England Patriots. Now, Tony Pollard gave you those rushing yards. That's what you want from Tony Pollard. That's what you expect. 5.3 yards per carry. That's going to bode real well. He's not really splitting the time with an Ezekiel Elliott type, so he's getting the usage, and we just take an overall picture. He kind of was the standout in week 3 for the Dallas Cowboys, and he had 122 rushing yards. I expect him maybe not to get that. So if you're Bill Belichick, are you going to stop the run and expect Dak Prescott to win it for you? Or are you going to stop the Dak Prescott and kind of let Pollard do its thing? It'll be interesting to see what Bill Belichick does. And number 3, Derrick Henry, home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Derrick Henry is kind of, I don't see, he might be a little banged up, might be a little bit questionable, but you expect Spears to kind of get a little bit more than 4 carries. That's not going well. You go back to week 2, that's kind of more of a Derrick Henry, ranked 14th. You expect him to be in the top 10 for sure. And in week 1, he was the 15th ranked running back. You just expect more for a Derrick Henry type. He was probably one of the top running backs to go, and you're not getting the points off of his performance this year. At number 4, you got Kenneth Walker III. Now, he was the 3rd best running back in week 3. He had 97 rushing yards, 2 TDs. If you look at that, that's really well. Overall, you look, DK Metcalf, 112 receiving yards. Geno Smith, kind of quiet game, decent. But Kenneth Walker was a standout. 97 rushing yards to go along with 59 receiving yards. That's very good. Can he get it again? I don't know. You got Carbonet. That's there. DJ Dallas saw 2 rushes. Pay attention to this team. DJ Dallas might be more valuable as the season progresses. Kenneth Walker, I don't expect him to be the top 5 running back this week. At number 5, Travis Etienne, home versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he had 88 rushing yards to go along with 50 receiving yards. He was the 9th ranked running back in week 3. Just taking a look, you're right. When you see these stats, I know you're going to rock with Etienne no matter what, but he was the 7th ranked running back in week 1, 41st ranked running back in week 2, and the 9th best running back in week 3. So, do we expect to be out of the top 30 in week 4? Possibly. But I expect that offense to bounce back, and I expect that passing game to bounce back. At number 6, you got Josh Jacobs at the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I was watching the game the other day, and you kept on hearing Josh Jacobs' name. 17 rushing attempts, 3 catches, 18 yards. He was just getting used a lot. Jimmy Garoppolo is getting more comfortable. I expect Josh Jacobs to have a similar type game. So if we look at it here, he was the 23rd ranked running back. I expect him to be around there. If he gets into the end zone, he might be in the mid-decies, but I expect him to be right around 15, 16 this week. I think 6 is a little high for that offense. At number 7, Zach Moss, home versus the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Moss was the 4th ranked running back. Let's take a look at his stats. 122 rushing yards, 2 catches, 23 receiving yards, 1 TD. The question goes again for this team is who's going to play quarterback? Minshew is playing well. Now you got Anthony Richardson coming back, and there might be a quarterback controversy. But I kind of like Zach Moss to kind of continue to do what he did. If you look at the Los Angeles Rams, Mixon got into the end zone, so I expect the running backs to kind of get into the end zone. Moss should do well. I don't know about 7, though. It seems a little high. At number 8, Bijan Robinson at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I didn't hear much about Bijan Robinson other than I think he got no, that was a different game. But 10 attempts, 3.3 yards per carry, 4 catches, 27 yards. That's not cutting it. If you look at his rushing totals here, so week 1, about 50, 55 yards. Week 2, over 120 yards, and week 3 fell off the map. His points dipped. So Bijan Robinson, rookie, expected to do well, give you points. What to expect? I expect a bounce back game. I expect him to be right around there. 8 sounds good for him. At number 9, Kyron Williams at the Indianapolis Colts. He had a very quiet week 3. 27 receiving yards, 38 rushing yards, just missed the top 30. I don't know what to expect here. If that offense seems a little off lately. So that's a little stretch to see Williams ranked 9th. I think he's going to be closer to the 28th, 29th in this week. At number 10, Joe Mixon at the Tennessee Titans. Mixon got into the end zone. Now he's ranked 12th. That bodes well, right? If you go back to week 2, he's getting the yardage, right? About 95 yards. Week 1, about 73 yards. So I expect Mixon to do well. I just don't think he'll be in the top 10. At number 11, you got Miles Sanders home versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now Miles Sanders, kind of a decent game. Look, 24 rushing yards, 1 TD, 38 receiving yards. He was ranked 14. So you don't have to have that much. If you get into the end zone, you're mid-tier. That can bode well for him again. He's playing the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings have not won a game. They might be hungry, so not sure what to expect. But Miles Sanders should be in the top 30. I'd see him in the 20s. At number 12, Jahmyr Gibbs at the Green Bay Packers. Now, he had 80 rushing yards, 17 attempts for 4.7 yards per carry. I think if we take a look at it, I didn't watch the game, so not much. I got to depend on my stats. Laporta, as a tight end, did really well. Jared Goff, decent game, not spectacular. Amon-Ra St. Brown did really well. Jahmyr Gibbs did good. I would expect another game just like that. I expect him to be where he's ranked. And I think if you look here, Jahmyr Gibbs, he was the ranked 21. I expect him to be right around the 20th spot. So to see him at 12 seems a stretch for me. At number 13, Raheem Mostert at the Buffalo Bills. Now, it was wild to see 2 Miami Dolphin running backs ranked 1 and 2 in Week 3's rankings. Here you got Mostert ranked 2, and you got Akon ranked 1. So here we go. Let's take a look at it. 13 attempts, 82 rushing yards, 60 yards, and a TD. Is that going to happen again? Probably not. So they had like over 700 yards this game. Now, I don't expect that to happen again. So it's very wild. Obviously, it was one of those outliers of a game. So what do we expect? I think we have to go back to week 2 to kind of see what we're going to expect from Mostert, right? Because you don't want them to start splitting carries. So here, in week 2, he had 121 rushing yards, 2 TDs. I'd expect a game like that. I think he'll be in the top 10, maybe in the top 5, but right on the outside. At number 14, you got James Cook, home versus the Miami Dolphins. Now, I didn't watch that game. I don't know what Buffalo's doing, so I got to depend on my stats here. 15 attempts, 6.5 yards per carry. I like that. 98 rushing yards, 2 catches, 14 yards. So I want to see, is he going to get the throws? So you got Josh Allen. He's got 9 different targets. That ball is going to move around a lot. I don't expect a lot of carries. So I expect Cook to see him at 14. I think that's a stretch. I don't think he makes it. I think he's in the top 30, though. At number 15, Alexander Madison at the Carolina Panthers. Now, he was ranked 13, 20 attempts, 93 rushing yards, 32 receiving yards. Ranked 13. So I think, again, it's one of those things where Kirk Cousins always gets dogged out a little bit. Here he threw it for 50 times, 367 yards. His offense is getting some usage. His receivers are doing well. They're just not winning. So there's some expectations that maybe Cousins gets traded. Alexander Madison, 93 rushing yards. So I don't know. He needs those catches, I would say, to kind of get there. If he doesn't get about 50 yards, he's not here. But he's a good player. He should do well. James Conner, number 16, James Conner at the San Francisco 49ers. So here's a game. Didn't watch it. 98 rushing yards, 1 TD, 18 receiving yards. So they won, but what does that look like? Not much from the passing game. And looks like it's a rush-heavy team. So I'm just going to say that James Conner is going to get that same usage against the San Francisco 49ers. But we might have to depend on Dobbs to throw it. And if you depend on Dobbs to throw it, Conner's not going to get that rushing carry. So San Francisco does have a good defensive line. I doubt that Conner gets number 16. At number 17, Javonte Williams at the Chicago Bears. So here, Javonte Williams just made the top 30, 42 rushing yards, 23 receiving yards. And so Wilson's slinging it, though. I don't know. Javonte Williams, Perrine, they probably are just splitting all that usage. Looks like they're just going to depend on Wilson. I think having a running back for Denver is going to be a stretch. I don't like to see Williams at number 17. At number 18, Brian Robinson Jr. at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that's a good defense that he's going against, and Robinson's playing well. I expect Robinson to have a better game, even though he was ranked 25. I expect him to do better. I like where he's at now. If we just look at his overall rushing yards, look, he got over 85 rushing yards in week 2. Week 3 dipped a little bit. Got to look at his points to kind of see where he's at. I like Robinson, though. I think he could do well. I like to see him right around there. At number 19, RamAndre Stevenson at the Dallas Cowboys. Here you go. He was just outside the top 30. Splitting carries. 19 attempts for Stevenson. 16 carries for Ezekiel Elliott. So they're splitting the time. So they're rushing it, 32 times? 35 times? That's kind of, if you're not rushing it that many times and you're going against Dallas, that's going to be a stretch to rush it 35 times. Let's look at how many times they threw it on top of that. Now you got, 35 rushes, 29, that's about 60 plays, 65 plays. Are you going to get 65 plays again? I'm not sure. I think, again, having split carries, Stevenson, I don't see it. At number 20, here you go. Alvin Kamara, finally, out of suspension, will be home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we know he hasn't done anything, but let's look at that team. Derek Carr's out. Winston's in. Winston can sling it. So there could be some chemistry with Winston and Kamara. I expect Kamara to play. I don't expect him to be a top 20 running back. I just don't see it happening. At number 21, Isaiah Pacheco at the New York Jets. Now, what I've been noticing is Mahomes is throwing it to a lot of different targets. Here, look at this. 3 running backs. That means the running backs are getting the throws, right? You're getting some. You're doing some screens. The running backs are involved in the offense. Travis Kelce's going to get his. Now you got McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and you got Pacheco in there. Just don't see it. I think it's a stretch to see any Kansas City Chief player ranked high other than Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Otherwise, the ball gets thrown. You might have an outlier, somebody like Sky Moore do really well, but it's a stretch. I don't like seeing it there. DeAndre Swift. Why can't DeAndre Swift be higher? Here you go. Number 22, DeAndre Swift, home versus the Washington Redskins. What's he doing not to be a top 10, top 15 running back? He's got 16 attempts, 8.1 yards per carry, 130 rushing yards. Why are we not dependent on Swift here? Look, week 2, stellar. Week 3, amazing. So I expect DeAndre Swift to continue to do well, and he's going to be in that top 10. At number 23, Aaron Jones versus the Detroit Lions. Now, here's something that you should go check out. Aaron Jones' injury. Go see some YouTubers like the Fantasy Doctors. Listen to what type of injury he got before you kind of depend on him. I know it's Aaron Jones. He's a good running back. He's won you some seasons, some games. So what is he going to do? You got Dillon, Taylor, and Wilson. You got Love. You just got that injury that's holding him back. That team's playing well, but I don't know. Like to see him in your flex spot, your second running back. I don't know if you could depend on him coming back from injury. I would consider not even starting him. That's a stretch. You're going to hold me to it. At number 24, Naji Harris at the Houston Texans. Here you go. 65 rushing yards, 19 attempts. And you got Warren, 8 carries and 29 yards. This is what their overall picture looks like. Not a lot of stellar performances there. So let's just go back to a previous game. So week 3 is ranked 28. Week 2 ranked 40. And then week 1, 44. So let's just say he continues this upward projection. So let's just say he's top 26, top 25, and that would put him exactly where he's at. So that's a pretty good ranking for him. Number 25, Rashad White at the New Orleans Saints. I like White. I think White could play really well. I think he just needs a couple breakout runs or a breakout throw. He's got the talent. He's got the smoothness. I think all it is a little determination for him. I like him at this spot at 25. At number 26, you got Breece Hall versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I didn't start. I have Breece Hall. I did not start Breece Hall. I put in Jones from New Orleans, and he did much better than Breece Hall. So what's going on here? Could Breece Hall be traded? Possibly. Is his knee? I don't think it's his knee anymore. I definitely think it's just that overall offense, but this is disappointing. You got Dalvin Cook not doing anything, Breece Hall not doing anything. They got 4 running backs getting carries. It's just not looking good. Breece Hall, if it continues, I don't expect him. I would not start Breece Hall again this week. I hate to do it. I didn't start him last week. I'm not going to start him this week, especially versus the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 27, Damien Pierce, home versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Damien Pierce, the 16th ranked running back in week 3. And how did he do that, right? So he had 59 total yards and 1 TD. That gives him just about 12 points. So 12 points gets you in the top 16. Man, that's amazing. But I think he's going to do well again. At number 28, Jerome Ford, home versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, here you go. Jerome Ford. I like it. It seems that this offense is built to run. I like it. Look, Kareem Hunt got picked up, got 13 runs, but they still depend on Ford to do that. So you look, Kareem Hunt, experience here, right? 13 rushes, 22 yards, but Jerome Ford is the guy. If you got Jerome Ford, start him. At number 29, Khalil Herbert, home versus the Denver Broncos. Now, he was nothing in week 3. He was just inside the top 30 in week 2. And did fairly well, right? He was ranked 22. If you look at his 16-team roster, 2 running back spots, that puts you there. So, do you start him? I don't know. I think you might even risk not starting him this week. He's not, look at this, 9 attempts versus 5 carries. Oh, that's week 1. Let's go back to week 3. So let's just see how this all pans out, right? So you got Johnson with 8 carries and Herbert with 7 attempts. That's 15 attempts for running. I don't like it. So I don't think he makes the top 30 in week 4. At number 30 is Tyler Aguilera at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Bijan Robinson's already in there. You got Cordell Patterson injured, not getting any usage. And what do you expect? So let's take a look at this Desmond Ridder. Haven't watched much games here. Haven't seen much. Pitts isn't doing well. Your receivers isn't doing well. And your running backs. Now they're going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's going to help you. But having 2 Atlanta Falcons running backs in the top 30, I think there's some other teams, including Miami, that would rather see 2 running backs in the top 30. So I don't like to see Tyler here. I think he's just going to be outside of it. All right, that is doing it for the top 30 running back rankings for week 4. I hope by showing you some stats, showing some team overall pictures helps you with your lineups. And don't forget to always like and subscribe. And we do some other videos like waiver wire pickups. And we also do an injury report on Thursday and on Sunday. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.